Welcome to the month of June, 30 days all about gin. Shining a spotlight on craft-made Canadian. Fun facts and proper tastings, live cocktails Friday afternoons. Discover 14 different brands and be influenced by me. Some for a roll. That's right, I'm a song for a roll.
Well, hello everyone. You are all very welcome to join me for this first day of Gi-Une, my 30-day salute to gin. Yes, folks, Gi-Une is finally here. Now, June 2021 marks my third consecutive year of taking a deep dive on gin during the calendar month of June, and thusly I renamed the month of June to Gi-Une, right? Gin plus June. And for those of you that love gin, and equally for those of you that can't stand it or hate gin, you are all in the right place. You see, my goal for the next month is to make you forget everything you thought you knew about gin and to get you all fully on board the Juniper train. Now, for those of you who may be joining me for the first time, a very special hello and thank you. My name is Paul Galt, aka Somm for All, and I'm an accredited sommelier with certified WSET designations, or WSET, whichever way you want to call it. Now, I created my company, Somm for All, with the purpose of truly being a sommelier for everyone, covering the range of wine, of beer, spirits, and sake, and always interacting with people in a relatable manner, no matter what people's knowledge level may be. No pretension, no stuffiness, no marketing gimmickry here, and no preconceived notions. Just a sommelier for everyone, or a somm for all, right? See what I did? And I'm bringing that same approach to Gi-Une for the next 30 days. It's going to be fun fact-filled info, tastings, and no BS. Now, as I just mentioned, this is indeed my third year highlighting gin for 30 days. And truthfully, folks, I have not been more excited about Gi-Une. The global pandemic has been very challenging for almost everyone, including small businesses. And with the need to buy and support local being even more important than ever, I'm excited about this year's Gi-Une. This year, I'm proud to be able to showcase 14 Canadian-made gins during my month of Gi-Une. Yes, folks, Canada absolutely has a thriving craft gin scene, and we're more than capable of making top-notch gin up here in the Great White North. And as we'll soon see, we make it in a range of methods and a range of styles. Now, for my US and international followers, thank you. And while some of you may not be able to get the gins that I'll be talking about, please don't go anywhere. Stay tuned, follow along, as I'm certain you're going to be intrigued by the backstories, the fun facts, the unique approaches, and the profiles that I'll be discussing all throughout the month. And you'll no doubt be motivated to go in search of similar styles of gin being made locally in your regions. Folks, there's a lot more to gin than what's in those big brand bottles we see at the liquor stores. So over the next 30 days, we're going to have fun taking a deep dive into talking about gin, tasting gin, sharing food pairings, and sharing some of the background and the story on gin. One of the things we're going to talk about, what is gin? I mean, aside from delicious. Essentially, gin's a distilled spirit that incorporates botanicals, and to be gin, it must contain juniper. And really, folks, the whole thing with gin, it all started with juniper. Well, the cones, or we call them berries, that come from the juniper trees and the shrubs. You see, very early humans were using natural substances for health and to cure ailments, and it's believed that as far back as 1550 BC, early Egyptians were using juniper to combat jaundice, while ancient Greeks were found to be using it as an old school PED, a performance enhancing drug, and also to relieve colic. So fair to say that the early days of gin go back a long way. Now, around 700 AD, a Roman physician found that juniper berries steeped in wine apparently had increased medical benefits. Now, caveat here, folks. In those early days, we know that back then the people at that time in these times had lots of interesting ideas on what to do for medicinal purposes. So please, if you're not feeling well, don't try this at home. Now, the 14th century is when things really start to get interesting for gin, as that's when the shift began from gin being solely medicinal to also being that of a social spirit. Notably in 1351, when a Dutchman noted that juniper aqua vitae, and I quote his words, makes people forget about sadness and makes their hearts happy and brave. Wise words. Still true to this day as well. Now, up until the 16th century, juniper was being steeped and or distilled with wine. But around the 1500s, some people started using water in place of wine and also using grains such as barley and rye as a base distillate in place of wine. Well, that is until the practice was banned in 1601, as grains at the time were needed due to food and bread shortages, but I digress. In 1568, the 80 Years' War began. You know, the 80 Years' War, when the Netherlands, when Belgium and Luxembourg revolted against Spain and Spanish rule. Now, that war prompted thousands of people to leave these regions for places such as London and Cologne and France. And of course, they brought their beverage-making knowledge with them as they went. Now, the next 250 years saw the start of a gin craze that lasted until the 1950s. In part due to the fact that the Dutch were adding more spices and more herbal components to their juniper distilled wine, which was known back then as Genever. And that also led to more and more people liking this new taste, right? Not like new Coke. This new Genever was popular. Now, both the Dutch and English navies also started having daily rations of gin. And there's a reason for that. You know, that was added for taste to the quinine in the battle against malaria as those nations were going into the south. And that gin going into that quinine subsequently gave rise to the modern day G&T. As we all know, tonic water contains quinine. Much less than it did back then, but that's where G&Ts came from. They also threw a lime in there to give them a little bit of a citrus stain to combat scurvy. So now you know. And as these navies now traveled the world, right, in terms of dominating colonizing places, so did this boozy spirit. Now, regarding gin's growing popularity, just for some context, by 1720 in Britain, 90% of all spirits being distilled in London was gin. Indeed, gin was everywhere. And, sadly, not without some consequence, social issues did begin to arise, leading to gin being nicknamed Mother's Ruin, amongst other things. And that one was a tough moniker to shake. But, nonetheless, gin's popularity persevered and continued to thrive. That is until about the aforementioned 1950s, when people's tastes started to change and the rise of the more neutral smelling, neutral tasting vodka began. When that happened, gin's popularity and sales nosedived globally, with it becoming almost invisible in most markets. That is until 1987, when a blue bottle gin, Bombay Sapphire, was launched complete with a new recipe for gin that provided a more light and more aromatic aroma and taste, all captured within a very attractive looking bottle. And thus, 1987 began gin's ascent once again with palates across the world, and since then it really hasn't stopped. Gin hasn't looked back. So now there you have some background on gin. You know, it's a fascinating history filled with politics, with geography, and much, much more. Now, some of you may be wondering, okay, that's great about the background on gin, thanks, Paul. How is this month of June going to work that you're talking about? Well, pretty simple. Weekdays, so Monday to Thursday, those weekdays, those will be video review days. So products are going to be reviewed and posted on those days, Monday to Thursday. Fridays are going to be cocktail happy half hours, probably more like happy 20 minutes, but that doesn't have the same ring to it. And during that happy 20 minutes, I'm going to be playing bartender, and I'm going to be making drinks based on the gin showcase that week. Now, fair warning, June 4th, the first one, is pre-recorded. I have a little bit of a very important thing to tend to. But I will be live on Instagram making these cocktails starting on Friday, June the 11th. Mark your calendars. Saturdays, that's going to be food posting days. And yes, folks, gin can be very food friendly, so you're going to have to tune in to find out more on that. And then on Sundays, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the botanicals that go into gin. A lot of them are not everyday items that we may be familiar with. So that's a full 7 days of gin during June. You're going to want to check me out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. All you got to do is @SommForAll. That's what you're going to be looking for. So @SOMM4ALL. Be sure to follow all my channels to ensure you don't miss anything. Also, please help me spread the good word about gin by sharing my posts and also by using the hashtag #SipWithSommForAll. Let's get this trending and let's blow the roof off any preconceived notions on gin that may be out there. Now tomorrow, the second day of June, I will be talking about and tasting 2 gins that represent each of the 4, let's call it traditional styles of gin. So I'm going to be talking about London Dry, which is a style, and Plymouth, which is a style. I look forward to seeing you all then. Everyone, thanks for tuning in to day 1 of June, and cheers from Somm for All.